All right, class. Thank you for joining me right before winter break. This might be the last class of the year, but we'll see. I'm Professor Wrestling, as always, and this is Fixing AEW. It's kind of an ongoing series, but don't worry, you can jump in here. All that you need to know is prior to now, we talked about what professional wrestling even is, how to tell stories and why it matters that we're doing that, and just the basics on how to build a contract to get a wrestler interested in helping your company out so you're not just squeezed like a money mark is. Now, if you're interested in wrestling discourse at all or have followed it for any period of time, no doubt you've seen ratings discussions. Right? People talk about the ratings every week on Dynamite. Here's a chart that gets released by WrestleNomics every week about the ratings. Ratings are super important to wrestling. But you want to know why. Like, it's weird. Like, Survivor fans don't constantly bring up the ratings. If you're a fan of Marvel, every third conversation isn't about box office, right? But like with wrestling, it's always ratings. So let's start right there. Why do fans care about ratings? It's a holdover from the Attitude Era. So in the late 90s, WCW and WWE, then F, were on at the same time. And this was before the internet was what it was today. So, if you wanted to watch wrestling, you had to watch it Monday night at primetime. Since they were on at the same time, people were interested in seeing which one was more interesting. And so the fans liked to track who watched which one more. And this was done by pulling ratings from Nielsen. So after that died and the landscape changed, wrestling fans, being at their heart a bunch of traditionalist marks, just kind of kept tracking ratings like it kind of meant something. And it doesn't really, but wrestling is such an obfuscated industry that we feel like it's the only window we really have. And I think that's a bigger problem, but if you ever wanted to know why wrestling fans care about ratings, there it is. In order to understand why ratings are so important for pro wrestling, we got to talk about the pro wrestling sales cycle, which looks something like this. I'll put it on screen here-ish. But the basics of it is, the goal of pro wrestling as an industry is to get people locked into this cycle and just moving through it. You'll notice it's a circle, right? So we'll start at ratings, TV shows. Every wrestling company that wants to make money gives away its previously recorded product for free. This can be YouTube, this can be TV, this can be cable, this can be late night public access. You try to get it to as many people as you want. If you're lucky, you can sell ads on this. If you get enough eyeballs on your product, you can sell ads on that. But functionally, you give that away for free. The goal of giving it away for free is that your premium events that do cost money, that require a subscription to Triller, that require a subscription to Max, that require a pay-per-view buy, right? That people will be so intrigued by your free product, they'll buy the pay-per-views. Now, once you have people cracking wallets and spending money, they're going to want to go to a live event. If you tour, they can't go to all of them, but now they're engaged. They want to come to one near them. Next time you're in town, boy, they're excited to go to a live event. While they're at that live event, they've already budgeted time to do this and money, because people coming to a live event aren't just walking in and paying a ticket. They're taking time out of their day. They're spending money on gas. Maybe they're getting food before or after. It can be a family event. It can be a date night. There's a lot of reasons. You could just be a fan going by yourself, but you've already decided to spend money in the venue to come in. And once that money is already decided to be spent, boom, you get them on the merch. We're talking signed autographs. We're talking pictures, posters, t-shirts, whatever you can sell at your merch booth should be sold. That's why this picture of their merch booth is so fucking sad, dude. It's bad. It's real bad. But more to the point, now that you have them buying stuff, they're going to take that home with them as a souvenir. Maybe they're going to put it on their mantle. Maybe they're going to put it on their wall. Maybe they'll put it in their notebook at school. Oh, remember when I met Big John Joey, right? And at that point, your customers are going to do two things. The first thing they're going to do is take that merch and talk about their experience. They're going to show it to their friends. They're going to show it to their family. They're going to talk about it at school. They're going to talk about it at work. Oh man, what'd you do last weekend, Pete? Oh dude, I saw the new AEW show and I got a picture with Tony Mahoney, Thunder Rosa. I like Thunder, but like I got a picture with Thunder Rosa. It was so cool. Oh, dude, yeah. Aren't they on HBO? Yeah, you should check them out. They're so great, right? That's what you want. Already, they're going to market your product for you. Now, the second thing they're going to do is be reminded of the product all the time. Just always, right? So that is the sales cycle. Because once they're reminded of the product, they're going to go, I should go watch some. They're going to watch it on TV, and we've hooked them. The goal of wrestling, why ratings matter, is this. You need as many people in this as possible. Some folks are going to fall out. You need to constantly put people into this cycle. Just constant, just more. I don't care if ratings are 1 million or 100. I need more people in, always. Just always more people, more. This can never be full because it will always have people bleeding out. It'll just have people who die in car wrecks or get too old and their heart gives out or stop paying attention because their mom got cancer or lose their jobs so they can't come to the next show because they're broke this year, right? Like all of those are things your customers are going to be going through. So you need to get people on that. And because ratings is our free product that gets mass distributed, is our biggest channel to get people in, ratings matter. That's why ratings matter. And if you need to understand AEW, this is the Tony Khan problem. The Tony Khan problem looks a little bit like this. I'll put it on screen now. AEW equals TK or Tony Khan plus TE or the Elite multiplied by P minus F. P is profit and F is fun. That's the problem. That's how it looks. If P and F are integers on a scale of 100, how much do you want to make money? How much do you want to have fun? If you don't want to make money at all, it's minus 100. If you do want to make money, it's 100 if you don't really want to have fun. But you have to pick which one you want to do more. TK plus TE is how much they're involved. How much do they care? With Cody moving to WWE and Kenny Omega going to New Japan, it doesn't seem like the Elite care a lot, so Tony has to care a lot. But if they're in it more to have fun, then AEW is a negative. And if they're in it to make money, then AEW is a positive. And that's basically the Tony Khan problem. I don't mean Tony Khan is a problem. No, at all. It's an equation he has to solve. If Tony Khan wants to have more fun and spend his inheritance money and just kind of burn through the company until he runs out of cash, then you can close up shop and go home. Who cares, right? Like, who cares? He's spending his dad's inheritance. The Khans are just dicking around. It doesn't matter. They're billionaires. They're spending $100 million. Like, whatever. It's completely irrelevant. But if they're trying to actually run a successful business, then it's about how much they're invested in doing that, right? How invested are you in caring about this product enough to work day in and day out on it? Are you just fantasy booking? Because every nerd that doesn't have $1 billion wants to fantasy book. But not everyone gets to know the Elite and Cody Rhodes because they have $1 billion, right? Hell, I'd fantasy book the Continental Classic. Who wouldn't? But I'm not in a position to. I'm a professor. I teach you about wrestling. I don't have $1 billion of my dad's money to churn through because I'm already a billionaire. Like, who cares? If AEW is net positive, if it's more profit than fun, then they need to figure out how to solve their ratings problem because it is dropping and it is bad. If they're more fun than profit, then ratings are irrelevant, and the rest of this video can only serve to educate you on how to improve ratings for your wrestling company, not necessarily how to fix wrestling at AEW, because AEW doesn't care. There's just no one interested. So the second big reason AEW matters, and I think this is an equation that needs to be talked about, is the TV deal. TV deal looks a little something like this. This is a big equation. You might want to know why it matters. Well, because you keep hearing a lot of words. They got paid this, they got paid that, they got paid this, they got paid that. Right now, nobody knows how much AEW's TV time is worth. I don't know, you don't know, HBO doesn't even know. They all guessed. AEW said, well, we're worth this, so here's what we're worth. But they don't know. By the end of these 3 years, HBO is going to know to the frame how much wrestling people watched. And they're putting every show on their entire service through this kind of equation. So let's go over this equation. I'm sorry, I know, but here's how it works. Your show valuation, the money, is going to be equal to S minus E minus P. What is that? That is your subscription cost minus your expenses. This is the internet pipeline, the server backend, your IT nerds, your lawyers, your HR, like all the shit it takes to run a business. That's your expenses. Minus your profit. This is the margin you want to protect. Maybe it's 1%, maybe it's 10%, maybe it's $1, maybe it's $5. We don't know. But that's SEP. Now, the second part, AEW over VT, is how much AEW is watched over how much total view time an account spends. So if you buy an HBO Max account to watch AEW and all you do is watch AEW, then your AEW over VT is going to be 1. So it's the only thing you watch. Usually it'll be a decimal point because you're going to watch that and maybe, oh, they got Adult Swim. Oh, Dune. Hey, I like DC stuff. Now it's going to go down to a percentage. Some of what you're watching on Max will be AEW. Now, that's going to be multiplied by TV total viewers. This is the total amount of people that do this. And then lastly is 110, or the number of shows that they want to buy. This will determine wholly AEW's entire annual valuation at the end of these 3 years. So I want to go through just this little equation and sort of show you how it works. We don't have all the numbers, but at the end of the day, what's important for you to know and for us to know is that HBO is going to have all the numbers. And 3 years from now, when they talk to AEW to renegotiate, they're going to give them a number based on an equation. Maybe not like this, but fucking close to it. Because this is how they run a profitable business. They are not interested in having fun. They are not interested in burning daddy's money because they are a company that needs to make money. And at the end of those 3 years, Warner Brothers Discovery is going to tell Tony Khan, this is what you are worth. And they're just going to drop the fucking mic on him. Because even Nielsen ratings that we talked about that wrestling fans love so much, even that's an estimate and it can fluctuate. But if you know to the frame the data and you're a premium service by yourself, people are going to know. So pull out your calculators. I'll run through just a sample and we'll be really generous. So we'll just start. Right now, it costs $17 a month to subscribe to HBO Max. We will say that 30% of that is expenses. So that's servers, that's maintenance, that's all that stuff. And we will say again, they want to have just $1 for profit. They want to take just $1 for profit margin. Oh, they're so generous. Look at them. So we have an 11 for our SEP. We'll say the average person is going to watch 10 hours a week of HBO Max, and we will say that everybody watches Dynamite. All of them is 2 hours, right? So you're going to have the 2 divided by 10. So you can get 0.2. So that's our second solve. All right, total viewers. How many people are going to watch? Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and take this number I pulled from like a cable ratings website, and we'll say 586,000. They keep a straight up, exactly the same cable rating. And again, 110 shows a year. That's Collisions and Dynamites and PLEs. So let's just do the math. So that's their total income from HBO Max. This will be what they get offered if they can keep a 586,000 average view count. But if those ratings drastic go down, then that valuation goes down with it. This is not good.
The numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you.
If people who watch Max don't watch AEW or watch very little of it compared to everything else they watch, AEW is not going to be viewed as getting them in the door. And if you're not getting new signups, you're not getting people in the door for Max, you're devaluing yourself as a brand partner. These are all the things that AEW is going to have to solve within these 3-year time period, where they're going to be offered a number insultingly terrible. And even at 141 million, you can go, oh, that's so easy to do. Well, is it? Like, think about that for a second. You got to pay taxes and overhead, right? And all your backroom staff. This is before talent. You got to pay all your back-end staff, right? So what does that cost? We know the talent costs about $30 million a year. Is $300,000 on average per contracted operator, multiplied by 100, right? So it's 30 million. So of that 141, 30 immediately goes to your talent pool, which leaves you with 110 million to run that company on. According to Stevie Richards, they burn $4 million a show, so you're already losing money because 110 shows at $4 million a show is $440 million. That you can't do that. So that's going to lose money. And there you go. There you have it. That's your valuation. So that is why ratings are important. Higher ratings is going to mean higher values from HBO Max. It's going to mean more people in the sales cycle. So it's a healthier company. It means more money for people that we have under contract to pay. Provided the Tony Khan problem means that we're here to make money, not here to have fun. You could say you can do both, but you got to pick one more than the other. So that takes us to our last part, how to fix ratings. We talked earlier in the series about stories and characters, why story arcs matter, and how it's important to use them in pro wrestling to get people invested in your show. Since our goal for this is to fix ratings, we have to understand that stories and characters are how we do that. The top-rated cable shows here, you'll see a lot of them are hour-long episodic dramas with characters that people can be interested in. So every week, people want to check into the characters they like and see what's going on. AEW's roster is really bloated. Here's a thumbnail just about that. That needs to maintain a level of focus on people we know are doing stuff. So how we do that is we have to change our perspective. This is a card that a customer might see. You as a fan are going to see a card like this. When I'm writing a card, it kind of looks like this, which is that exact same thing, but now it's just in Word. It looks a little bit more boring. So here, let's dress it up. There we go. Now, how do we make this into story arcs? Great question. What we're going to do is this. See, these numbers denote where in the story arc everything is. You're going to see two things. The opening segment is a 4. Remember, we don't have resolutions, so our story arcs never end in wrestling, they continue. We're going to start every show with a segment explaining, because this happened to me, this next thing is going to be happening. I won the title, here's what I'm going to do. John Moxley beat me up, here's how I'm going to get revenge. I just beat up Orange Cassidy, here's the next step of my plan. We continue something. Then we're going to have builds. We're going to have 2s and 3s throughout. What are we doing in these stories? How are these progressing? Are these feuds? Are these stipulations? Like what are we doing with these? But we're going to use the match to tell those stories where applicable. And for the home viewer, we are going to use the commentators to tell those stories where they can. Then we have a 3. Right? So we have some 2s and we have a 3. 3s are climax. Remember, we have a climax for undercard stuff too. Undercard stuff can blow off on TV for free. It's just going to give our audience a sense that stories are moving forward. It's going to get them in the door on ratings. Oh man, did you see that match last week where Thunder Rosa won her title shot? That is a climax for that feud. Who wins the title shot? So then we're going to have a continuance, probably next week, where Thunder Rosa can come out and say blah, blah, blah. Again, segment continuance. So then because we have a 2-hour show, we're going to break it. That's our first half. That's our undercard. Then we're going to build more stuff. So this is going to be our mid part of the show. And we're going to end with another climax. This is the zenith of this story that we're in. This doesn't need to be a main event like world title match, but it needs to be the main event of that story that is being told. So for example, in your Death Riders story about challenging for the world title, you don't need to put John Moxley in the main event to blow that off. You put him in the under main event, with the main event being something else that's blowing off that should maybe have a stipulation to it. We're talking a ladder, last man falls, street fight, triple threat for a thing, best 2 out of 3. However you want to stipulate your main event, do a stip. And that'll blow off that feud. Now you have 2 blow-offs, so we're going to move, again, 2 segments. Look at that. So now we go, because this, we continue into that. If you want to have a segment where a lot of things can happen, that's totally fine. But you want to be moving those stories along and then building up again. Using story arcs to monitor where you are in the stories means that you're going to be focused on moving those along and blowing them off where you need to. Have a lot of build, that's fine, but you kind of have to end that at some point, right? And try not to overstay your welcome, and that's felt out in live events with the crowd. The crowd is essential to wrestling, and if we're here to have fun, I don't know why you just don't keep renting out giant arenas and just giving away tickets. Buy $1 each, free beer, right? But every AEW ticket gets a free sody pops. This might sound stupid, but you have to understand sports teams do this all the time, right? The goal is to get people in the stands, to cheer on the game. That way your rebroadcast of the game makes it look bigger league. If you want to take a hit on booking that stadium that you kind of already own anyway, do it. That's fine. Just get people in there so that they can start buying merch and we can put them in the sales circle. Remember, that's the fucking point of wrestling, is to stuff people into that circle. Sorry. It's very frustrating to watch a company with all the right tools take it in the can. But let's say you wanted to get more specific. Let's say you wanted to have every single wrestler on their own story arc. Well, that would look like this. And this is way more fucking complicated. Every wrestler has their own thing they're doing, and it's a lot. To pull this off, you would need a writer's room. Not just a head of creative. You'd need 5 dudes that are writing, because you have to manage a roster of 141 people, last I checked, although arguably let's cut that in half and say 75, because AEW doesn't have brand split. If you brand split and you put 30 guys on Dynamite and 30 guys in Collision, then you could actually probably have 2 writers a show sort of co-writing those 30 people. You're writing basically an X-Men comic at that point, and you have to write a lot, but that's okay. Wrestling's not heavily scripted, which is good. That's part of it. The reason a lot of this kind of stuff is important is because the goal is to get people to watch the show. So if you're telling stories and you can know where you are in your arcs, and you can build off those arcs into new arcs with new characters, you're going to build this sort of lore Bible universe of storytelling. And that's what will get people to watch your show. And you might say, an interconnected universe of character-centered action? That's not a real thing. That doesn't make, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm sorry. I apologize for that picture of the Marvel. I apologize for that Marvel picture. I don't know how that got on screen. It has nothing to do with how much money they made. Now, if we were doing an athletic competition of real fighting, you'd have to have some kind of ultimate fighting championship to compare to. And if that was a real thing, you could just see that it blasts everybody out the water on fucking pay-per-view buys. So if your goal is to get more pay-per-view buys, then why are you competing with losers, right? Why are you going for, you can't compete with the UFC because it's a real fight and you are a fixed show, which is okay. It's just not a real fight. I'd partner with Fathom Events, but that's a live attendance issue. And we're just trying to fix the TV show. Also, and I find this to be really interesting, if you look at AEW's top viewed YouTube segments of all time, or even just in the last little bit, the top viewed stuff is segments where people can see the next part of a story, but the top uploaded stuff is matches without any of the theatrics. And that's weird. I don't know why that's what they're uploading. I seriously don't. If you look at their own metrics, right? Matches aren't what moves the needle with people when you have 4 million subs and you're getting this many views. It's bad, right? So if you really wanted to improve ratings, you would just look at just the trend on one. I'm just looking at one trend on one platform, and I'm not AEW where I have access to every data point all the time, which would be super important. And it's clear they want people to watch the product because they keep trotting out the fucking we bring the boom guy. And I'm not saying he's bad. And I'm not here to besmirch the Rizzler. No, thank you. The Rizzler is bringing the boom. What I'm saying is, why would you partner with TikTok goober influencer pieces of shit if your goal wasn't to make the product more profitable, right? Like if you were here to have fun and not make any money, like you would not do this. You would just go, fuck it. I'm going to keep paying Japanese people $1 bajillion to wrestle because it's fun, which is what he should be doing. But if you are doing that, then how come your AEW 4 million sub YouTube channel isn't focusing on the stuff that draws eyeballs? You see, it's this. This is the thing that everyone's mad about. If you are a serious business, act like a serious business and take lessons from things. If you're not a serious business, who gives a shit? But then why are you doing these things like they matter? Right? Like, why do you have a Continental Classic and a belt for any purpose other than because Tony Khan thinks it would be cool? Which is all you need functionally. But then what's the point of the Rizzler? What's the point of the big boom? Why even bother to market anything? Why charge for tickets? Why not just make every ticket free? Who cares? Make your pay-per-views $1 and just give them out. Put them on iTunes. Who gives a shit? It's not like you're here to make money. Unless you are here to make money, then all this other stuff is like, how are you not getting the message that you're fucking up the system? Right? Like, I'm sorry. I have to shoot on Tony Khan for a second. I have worked with producers. I understand that there's an appetite for pro wrestling at a production level in Hollywood. Like, you don't have to be dumb to see it. It's there. I have talked to Hollywood writers about pro wrestling. I have talked to wrestlers about how to become like a more legitimate production show. And everybody does not have the money, connections, talent, and opportunity that fucking Tony Khan's got at his fingertips. Do you know how many production houses would kill to be a part of AEW tomorrow? The number's staggering. They'd fucking leap over each other. Freddie Wong, Freddie Prinze Jr., Seth Green and Stupid Monkey Productions. If AEW made a call to any of these people, any of them, they'd have access to like top tier talent, like in a moment's notice. You could work with Dick House. You could get the Knoxvilles on board. Like it's not hard to do this. What's frustrating is if they're not serious, then who gives a shit if they do anything other than have a match with flips that you like? But if they are serious, then why the fuck aren't they doing this shit? Does Tony not care? Or does he care, but he's surrounded by dumbasses? Does the elite, are the elite checked the fuck out? Or do Matt and Nick wake up in the morning and go, I need to figure out how I can make this successful? Because I will tell you the truth. I will tell you, not as a professor, but as a fan, as a wrestling fan, I love that the community comes together for guys who can't make it. I love that we support indie wrestlers and buy their silly t-shirts and sub them on YouTube and talk about our favorite matches that fucking Matt Cardona had in some dick house fed in front of 30 people. I love that we do this. And when I look at AEW, I see a place where 100, 200 other people can work and shine and really show what they can do. And when it's run by a bunch of sycophantic dipshits who are going to burn through this guy's savings, because even though they've been given this opportunity, they don't want to make it succeed for everyone else on the card. It makes me fucking infuriated. It's the impetus for this series. If I understand that Tony Khan might not give a shit. It is just his inheritance. It could just be for fun. But when I watch the elite fuck this up for everybody else, it sickens me. When I know that people like Thunder Rosa and people like Kyle Fletcher and people like the Beast Mortis and Hologram, as dumb as these gimmicks are, these guys are showing up and lacing up their boots, and they're just as likely to blow a clavicle or compress a spine or get drawsed for AEW as they are for some indie shithouse production. And I see like the management, the Bucks, the Jerichos are just wanting to get theirs and fuck the rest of the locker room. It's disgusting. And next class, we're fixing merch.